Welcome to this exploration. We are looking at lesson 350 today. It just says, miracles mirror God's eternal love.
It sounds so simple and beautiful, doesn't it?
It does.
And it is. But it also contains one of the trickiest metaphysical concepts in the entire workbook.
I agree.
Specifically around forgiveness.
Yeah.
The way the Course talks about forgiveness here, it just goes so far beyond our usual understanding of that word.
Exactly. And I think the point of resistance, for so many people, it almost always centers on one specific sentence in the lesson.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. What we forgive becomes a part of us as we perceive ourselves.
Right. And you hear that and, well, the mind operating from separation just slams on the brakes.
It's an emergency stop.
That phrase just instantly triggers this fear that if we forgive something, especially, a deep injury or what we see as a huge injustice, that we are somehow approving of it.
Or absorbing it.
Yes, absorbing the source of the pain. Or even worse, maybe losing the identity we built to survive that pain.
That hard-won identity, right?
Right. We just automatically associate forgiveness with, emotional closeness or letting someone off the hook. And that is the exact opposite of what this lesson is actually describing.
So that's what we need to unpack today, this crucial shift in perspective. The key thing to remember here is that this lesson operates purely at the level of identity. The mission for this exploration is really to slow way, way down and just dissect how this identity shift actually works.
And I think we can break that down into three main points, really. First, what does the Course actually mean when it says a miracle mirrors love? What is that mirroring effect?
Good question.
And second, we have to break down how forgiveness functions as an undoing mechanism, not an effort, not a struggle.
And the resistance to that.
And all the resistance that it generates. And then finally, we can get into the implication of shared identity.
And why that restoration is, the literal salvation of the world.
Exactly.
It's a conversation that really forces you to question the very basis of your personal story, doesn't it?
If the world you see is just a product of the beliefs your mind is holding, then, correcting that belief system is the only meaningful act there is.
Now, if you find that, as we go through this, it brings up questions for you, or maybe you want to share your own experience with these ideas, you can always reach us.
Our email is acim@theworldharmonyproject.org.
Okay, I'm going to read the full text of Lesson 350 now. Lesson 350. Miracles mirror God's eternal love. To offer them is to remember him, and through his memory to save the world. What we forgive becomes a part of us as we perceive ourselves. The Son of God incorporates all things within himself as you created him. Your memory depends on his forgiveness. What he is unaffected by his thoughts, but what he looks upon is their direct result. Therefore, my Father, I would turn to you. Only your memory will set me free, and only my forgiveness teaches me to let your memory return to me and give it to the world in thankfulness. And as we gather miracles from him, we will indeed be grateful, for as we remember him, his Son will be restored to us in the reality of love.
It's so dense, isn't it? It's just this beautifully condensed statement that really provides the whole metaphysical answer to the problem of separation. And everything we're going to talk about today really just orbits those two key ideas. Love as the mirror, and forgiveness as the lesson that brings the memory of that love back into our awareness.
So let's start there. Let's start with that phrase that often causes so much resistance. And through his memory to save the world. We, as listeners, as students, often resist that idea of saving the world.
Too big.
Yeah, too big.
Well, our default setting, our ego defines the world as this external thing.
Something out there.
Exactly. A fixed reality that we have to wrestle with through, politics or social action or physical effort. We think saving the world means changing millions of people.
But if we can just hold to the fundamental premise of the Course for a moment, the world isn't the cause of our experience, it's the result.
It's the picture. It's the movie that's being projected onto the screen of our perception.
I like that analogy. So if the world is just a picture that's formed from the beliefs we bring to everything we see,
right,
then saving the world just means allowing those underlying beliefs to be undone.
It means the correction has to happen at the level of the projector, not the screen.
Yes.
You don't try to save a bad movie by, scrubbing the movie screen in the theater.
No.
You change the film that's running through the machine.
Saving the world isn't really about effort or struggle at all.
Not in the slightest.
It's about a willingness to just step back from defining and defending the beliefs that are generating this image of separation we call the world.
And undoing those beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
that's forgiveness.
That's forgiveness.
The Course says this over and over in different ways, right? Forgiveness is the recognition that what you thought happened didn't.
A silent internal correction of a belief.
The moment you stop trying to prove that you were right to be angry or right to be afraid or right to feel like a victim, that belief just loses its power. It stops dictating what shows up for us.
Or at the very least, how we interpret what shows up.
It's like, turning off a filter on a camera lens that only allowed red light to pass through.
I like that.
Suddenly the whole spectrum becomes visible again. You see what was always there.
And we have to be really clear here, I think. The world that is being released, it's built entirely from our own personal conclusions.
Completely. It's the sum total of all the stories we have rehearsed about our past.
The meanings we've attached to every experience of pain.
And all the interpretations we've used to define ourselves against others.
So this means we're not actually being asked to forgive a specific person or a specific act in isolation. That's not the point.
No, that's still focusing on the screen.
Right. We're being asked to forgive the interpretation we imposed on the act, the one that subsequently defined our own identity.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Like if I interpret an experience of abandonment as proof that I'm unworthy, the forgiveness isn't for the person who walked away. I have to forgive the belief in my own unworthiness. That's the cause.
And that connection, the one between the external experience and the internal self-concept, that is the absolute key to understanding Lesson 350.
These deeply held beliefs that we're talking about have directly shaped how we see ourselves.
Our entire lives, for many of us, are spent just gathering evidence to validate the identity we forged in separation.
But here's where it gets tricky, and I know this is a difficulty that listeners run into all the time.
Go on.
If I endured real pain, real suffering, abuse, betrayal, loss, that pain feels like absolute proof.
It feels like the truth.
It can feel like you're being asked to deny history.
And that's where the resistance becomes strongest, doesn't it?
It does.
And that's a huge challenge. The Course never denies the experience of pain within the dream, but it denies the meaning we assign to it. The pain itself is just a symptom of believing we are separate, not evidence that the separation is real or that we deserved it.
The goal isn't to somehow erase the memory of the event.
No.
It's to erase the interpretation, the conclusion we drew about ourselves that turned that event into a cornerstone of our identity.
If we decided we were unworthy or permanently flawed or a victim because of something that happened in the past, the fear is that if that interpretation falls away, the entire structure of the self that survived in that pain is just going to collapse.
And we're terrified of that collapse.
But the lesson addresses this directly. It shows that what you lose is only the faulty framework. And that loss is what allows God's memory, our true shared identity, to return.
It's like the difference between identifying with a scar and identifying with the life force that survived the injury. The scar tells the story of the past, sure, but the life force is eternal.
We're just moving from identification with form, the story, the scar, to identification with the underlying reality, life force, love.
This is where that self mounts its most subtle, most tenacious defense.
The deeper fear, the one that often goes completely unspoken,
is the fear of losing the self.
We are so attached to our personal history, to our struggles, even the painful interpretations.
They give us boundaries. They tell us who we are.
If you were to ask someone, who are you? The answer is almost always this highly curated list of conclusions drawn from their past.
I am a survivor. I am someone who struggles with anxiety. I am the victim of this or that.
Exactly. This self, the ego self, It's basically just a constellation of these separating beliefs.
Which is why, in practice, forgiveness so often stays conceptual for a long, long time.
We read the lesson, we agree with the idea,
We find the philosophy beautiful, inspiring.
but when it comes time to actually apply it to that one person or that one situation that truly defined our sense of injury,
Our core beliefs about who we are stay rigidly in place.
the concept just doesn't touch the lived, felt structure of the self.
We intellectualize love, but we don't really allow its function, the undoing, to operate fully in the mind.
Love doesn't require our intellectual agreement. It just requires a willingness to drop the defense of separation and letting love fully register. Well, that starts to change the entire belief system that holds the personal, unique self together.
And the ego sees that necessary shift, the dissolution of its boundaries, as a literal threat to its existence. The framework of separation gave that personal identity its shape, its definition, its specialness.
And its justification for being angry.
Yes. So if separation is undone, the ego believes it dies.
And we have spent so long reinforcing that identity of separateness, often with great pain and effort, that any threat to that structure is, in fact, perceived as life or death. The ego whispers, if I truly forgive this deeply held belief that I am uniquely wronged, then who am I?
I lose my story.
I lose my shape. I lose my moral high ground. This is the real silent challenge of Lesson 350.
So let's tackle that key statement now, the one that causes all this confusion. And let's try to break it phrase by phrase to really clarify its function.
Yep.
What we forgive becomes a part of us as we perceive ourselves.
This is where we have to put on our metaphysical hats. Let's start with the first part, what we forgive.
Okay.
What are we forgiving? We are forgiving the illusion of separation that we projected onto a specific situation or person.
We're dropping the belief that a part of the Son of God is somehow outside of us, acting independently and maliciously.
Exactly. So what we forgive is the error. It's the judgment, the perception of guilt, the separating belief itself.
So it's not forgiving the external person, it's forgiving the internal frame we use to interpret their action.
Precisely. Now let's move to the next part. Becomes a part of us.
This is the scary bit.
But if the error of separation is removed, what's left?
The truth.
The truth of shared identity is what's revealed. The perception of separation was what made us feel incomplete in the first place. The part that returns to us is simply the realization that the other person, the situation, the world, it was always incorporated within the shared sonship. It just returns to our awareness.
It sounds like a complex math equation where you remove a faulty variable.
Yeah.
And the correct answer immediately appears. The answer wasn't created by removing the variable, it was just revealed.
That is a perfect analogy. The true self, the Son of God, is totally unaffected by our thoughts of separation. So when the thought of separation is dropped, the recognition of wholeness is instantaneous.
And finally, the last phrase, as we perceive ourselves.
This ties it all together.
It does. Our perception of ourselves changes because our old self-concept was based entirely on the excluded parts.
The parts we judged and refused to forgive.
Exactly. So by forgiving the judgment, we integrate the reality that we are not separate, and our self-perception just instantly expands.
From the small, fragile ego.
To the eternal, unified Christ self.
And what becomes so clear in that moment is just how provisional that separating self has been all along.
The self we defended so fiercely.
It was just constructed from interpretations and beliefs that are inherently changeable.
They were built on sand.
And forgiveness allows those separating beliefs to be undone without any struggle.
And that's a tremendous relief, isn't it? It means we don't need to get into emotional management.
No.
We just need perceptual willingness. We don't have to feel love for the person we saw as our attacker.
Not at all.
We only need to be willing to see that they are not separate from the Son of God and therefore not separate from us.
That willingness is everything. It's the dropping of the defense. And when we stop defending the belief in separation, the Holy Spirit takes over the actual undoing.
So we just offer the belief system up for correction.
And the correction follows naturally.
So this has to bring us to the function of miracles, because this is tied so directly into the shared identity that the lesson emphasizes. And I noticed that even within spiritual practice, there's another subtle, really entrenched ego trap here.
Which is?
The identity of being a miracle worker.
Oh, that's a critical point, yes.
You can really get stuck there.
You can. The ego absolutely loves spiritual roles because they allow it to maintain separation while seeming pious or, helpful.
Right. I am the enlightened one, offering a miracle to the lost suffering one over there.
And in that thought, you are still maintaining the basic ego structure of high versus low, advanced versus beginner, giver versus receiver.
It's a structure of superiority. It's just separation veiled in spiritual language.
And the lesson just completely removes this separating structure with one line. The Son of God incorporates all things within himself as you created him.
That sentence is the ultimate rejection of any special role.
It is. It assumes a single, shared, unified identity beneath all the seemingly different bodies and perceptions.
We aren't millions of individual minds who need correction from another better mind.
We are a single son who chose to perceive fragmentation. A miracle, then, is simply the recognition of this unified state. It's a correction for the whole sonship.
And this idea of a shared identity can be so unsettling if you've invested, decades in building a self around understanding the Course.
Or applying its principles well.
Or having superior spiritual knowledge. That spiritual identity can become the very last defense of the ego.
It often is.
Right.
Because if the Son of God incorporates all things, then there is no external source of suffering that isn't already internal to the one mind.
Right.
Therefore, the belief that I am separate from my brother or that I need to teach him from some position of authority is itself the separating belief that needs to be forgiven.
The teacher role becomes the trap. We do have to learn the Course to get to this understanding.
Right.
But we also have to simultaneously give up the identity of having learned it well.
Well, learning in the context of the Course is really a process of unlearning.
That's a great distinction.
It's to help the mind shift its focus from illusions to truth. The value is in the shift itself, not in the acquisition of knowledge.
So the lesson ensures that the moment we realize the truth of shared identity,
the concept of superiority just vanishes. The so-called learned mind and the unlearned mind are both just incorporated within the single Son of God.
Okay, so let's tie this back to the memory of love. The lesson starts by saying, miracles mirror God's eternal love. The truth of the Son of God, shared and complete, is God's eternal reality or memory. What exactly is the miracle reflecting?
A miracle is simply the reflection of that remembered truth. It's the spontaneous shift in perception that happens when the mind accepts the atonement for itself.
When we see a situation without projecting guilt or judgment onto it,
we are seeing the other person as guiltless. And that recognition of innocence is the miracle. It comes from a corrected belief in your own mind.
It's so important to stress that the miracle is, in a way, passive. It's not active in the conventional sense.
Right.
We don't do the miracle.
We simply allow the vision of the Holy Spirit to correct our belief system, and our perception shifts as a result of that allowance.
The miracle is the evidence that the atonement has been received.
And remember that core instruction from the lesson. Forgiveness teaches God's memory to return.
And this return is then naturally given to the world in thankfulness.
If your mind genuinely believes in shared identity, then the external form this takes is a spontaneous outflow of healing and comfort and peace. It's shared effortlessly.
The mind in separation is always struggling. It's trying to define boundaries and exert force.
Well, it's trying to hold two magnets apart when they naturally want to attract.
Exactly. And the miracle is just that quiet realization that the force field of separation has been turned off.
And the attraction, the love, is simply what is.
And that realization is what allows for the full restoration that's mentioned in the final lines.
His Son will be restored to us in the reality of love.
The Son is restored to our awareness of ourself, which is whole and complete.
And the miracle is the moment we witness this restoration.
It changes the definition of giving, doesn't it?
Completely. We're not giving from our little personal storehouse.
No. We're sharing the realization of the truth that was always present for everyone. We're sharing the restored memory.
And this restoration, this memory, is the only thing that can actually free us. Because if we rely on the ego's interpretation of the world, we are always bound by its limitations.
Its judgments, its history, its sense of scarcity.
All of it. Only God's memory, the eternal, unchanging reality of love, will set us free. It's the only reality that exists outside the dream of separation.
Okay, so this whole process, this deep metaphysical correction, it often leads to a really interesting phenomenon in our daily lives. When this memory returns, the external appearances of the world might very well stay the same while the meaning assigned to them changes.
Yes.
And this is where our expectations can really collide with reality.
That's so true. People anticipate this dramatic external overhaul,
A new job, a sudden windfall of money, a visible healing.
trumpets to sound. But since the correction is entirely internal, the physical stage of the world, the people, the objects, the circumstances, can look completely identical.
The only difference is the internal context we bring to them.
Right. And so living this lesson often feels much, much quieter than we expected it to.
That incessant mental narration, the one that's always judging and analyzing and interpreting everything.
It just eases up.
It's the end of that constant mental noise.
The picture in front of you, whatever it is, a conflict at work, a relationship struggle, a health issue, it just carries less demand.
Less emotional charge.
And less implication about your personal self. You stop seeing everything as a referendum on your own worthiness.
This quietness might feel profoundly anticlimactic.
We are addicted to drama because drama is proof that the ego is necessary.
Proof that a powerful separate self is needed to navigate a dangerous separate world.
So when the drama stops internally, the ego feels marginalized. It feels irrelevant. And it will often try to create new external excitement just to prove it still has a job.
But for those who understand the goal of the course, this quietness is relieving. And that recognition is what Lesson 350 calls gathering miracles.
Gathering miracles is simply letting go of the belief that experience is proving something about us.
I think that might be the most vital distinction we can make for the listener today.
I think so too. We spend our separated lives so diligently collecting evidence from our experience.
Evidence to prove we are flawed, or separate, or victims, or heroes.
Every painful event is logged as data to reinforce the provisional self's story.
And when we stop collecting that evidence, when we refuse to allow a painful event to serve as proof of our separation, we stop using the world as a mirror to show us what we lack.
And we start allowing miracles to show us the love that is already present.
And as that separating belief that held the ego world in place begins to release, the associated struggle to manage all the world's perceived threats.
The need to constantly defend our personal stories. All of that energy is just freed up.
And you find gratitude doesn't need to be manufactured or forced.
It's the natural, spontaneous state that arises when the heavy strain of maintaining the illusion has finally been lifted.
It's the emotional experience of the final line. His Son will be restored to us in the reality of love.
The Son of God, which incorporates all things, is restored to our awareness when the separating beliefs are undone through forgiveness.
And this restored awareness is what generates the thankfulness that we then naturally extend to the world.
Simply by seeing the world as healed.
It really is the ultimate shortcut. We bypass the millennia of effort the ego says is required to fix external problems.
And instead, we focus on the one and only problem that actually exists. The belief in separation. Correct that, and everything else follows.
So today we looked at miracles as the spontaneous reflections of remembered truth.
And we really tried to dissect forgiveness as the mechanism for undoing the separating beliefs that shape everything we see.
We also devoted some time to the subtle resistances that always come up. the fear of saving the world through an internal correction,
The profound fear of losing the self.
and that subtle identity trap of seeking spiritual roles like being a miracle worker.
And we kept reiterating that the lesson keeps everything centered on the mind and on belief, because that's where all correction happens.
Allowing the true shared identity of the Son of God to just return to our awareness without effort or struggle.
But with a profound, quiet relief.
Thank you for spending this exploration with us today. We're so grateful you joined us,
Yeah.
this look into the nature of true forgiveness.
If you'd like to reach out with questions about any of the lessons or the concepts we explored, you can email us at acim@theworldharmonyproject.org.
And we'll leave you with today's affirmation. It's something for you to mull over and carry into your practice, recognizing the simple yet profound shift in perspective this lesson is asking of you.
I let the beliefs shaping my world be undone, and I remember the love we share.